This is Kyle Doyle, and I'm going to be doing a little quick terrain tutorial for you all. Just as a quick heads up on things that I imported, just so you can see the tools that I'm using and what else I've got. The most important one right here is going to be this Terrain Tools Sample Asset Pack made by Unity. It gives you a lot more control over the terrain and such, so it's the biggest one I'd recommend. Other than that, all I've got is some grass flowers, some trees, and I've also got some outdoor ground textures for you guys today. So with this, it's just going to be a quick landscaping tutorial, mainly focusing on the terrain tools and what those also add to you. So once you've got those all imported into Unity through the asset store that's on the page, just pull it up, open in Unity, and they'll start to let you import them in the project manager, the package manager. Go ahead, let's just go ahead and make a actual 3D object terrain. So you come up to that top in game object, 3D object, and then what you're looking for right here is terrain. It's going to start off centered because it's trying to catch that corner down there, and it's going to be massive. So what we can do is we can go to this little cog icon over here, and we can rein that in a little bit. Right now I'm just going to keep it small just because I don't need anything big to show you what you're doing. So we're just going to keep it like an 100 by an 100 square. The terrain height of 600 can stay. We'll be back through some of these settings later. So right now what I'm just going to go ahead and do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to set its position -50 and -50 type. There we go. So I've just now centered it off on that. So now we've got our terrain nice and centered, and we're going to come over here to this paint tool. You'll hit this lower drop down menu right below it, and it's going to give you a lot of options for holes, textures, heights, and whatnot else. Right now we're going to be looking at this raise and lower terrain. And you'll see this brush set right here where you can control the size of your brush to make it as large or as small as you'd like, or you can also control the opacity of it. This affects how heavily it hits. As you can see in that preview, one tap will do that, but if I set it down here to like 2, it'll be very smooth increases. Also, just holding click will make it raise on its own. Shift click will flatten it out to what it used to be. So if you're wanting to kind of delete things, set its opacity to 100 and just kind of scrub through. Control Z also always works, but I find it's easier sometimes to just do a little bit of editing with that. Now the reason I really like this terrain tool startup is because it gives you all of these extra brush options. Usually you get like 5 or 6 once you start off with the normal sets, but these give you a bunch of extra ones, so they give you terrain stamps as well. So with that, if you set it to 100 and you give it just like a little click, it'll kind of build that terrain for you. So they have ones down here like volcano and things like that. So if I increase that size and maybe not the, that much, let's keep it like, I don't know, 33. Yeah, you can kind of give it a pre-designed stamp set. So this is like a mountain range. You can control the size and whatnot you want of them. You can also go in here and you can set what you want, how you want. So you can make this little like range of mountains. If I just like kind of like tap them in just like that, you get this like nice little like varied mountain range without going in and having to do too much efforting. So I'm just gonna go ahead, I'm gonna take just like a light tool. I'm just gonna kind of come in and just like give it some like soft hill sort of texture to it. Give it some heights, some lows. I might put in a stamp here or there just to kind of give it some height and stuff for you all. This will do for just what we're looking for. Nothing big, nothing fancy. So next one I'm going to come in for is I'm going to try and add these textures to it. So adding the textures is a little bit different than what we usually have, because this one you kind of have to paint on. So if I go ahead and add this layer, I'm going to go ahead and make some dirt as the layer. So for this one, it went through and it went ahead and just painted all of the dirt all over it, which isn't bad for what I wanted. I kind of wanted this dirt. A thing I will note is that I don't like the normal scale on this. I feel like it is aggressively, patchy, especially for how big this tile set is right now for the paint. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to drop that normal down a little bit, drop it down to a 2, and you see it flushed it out a lot more. Made it look kind of more like a clay sort of dune area. So I'm going to go into this edit terrains again right here under this, and I'm just going to add another layer to it, and we'll add some grass for this just to kind of show. Now with this, we are still working with this brush set down here. So I can control the size and the shape how I'd like, and I can just paint in the grass where I want it. So now I have that grassy field that's come out inside this dirt. I can delete that, if I up that opacity, it's going to do the same sort of thing. It's just going to come a little bit quicker. And you can sit here and you can just paint to your heart's content until you get what you like. So I'm just going to add this like big grassy knoll in the middle of this clay area just to kind of show. And I'll do one more layer. We'll go ahead and make it some scree just because good for like side edging for like walkways. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it down to like a 5, and I'm just going to kind of go in. Usually this is better for like some rocky kind of areas. So I'm just going to go and like add some around this edging. Usually it's good for like a good path if you wanted to get some depth into your path on the outside. And again, I'm only working with an 100 by 100 field. So right now I'm not working with the biggest areas. So take some scale concepts into mind with this. A good way to do that is to actually go into game object and to just create a 3 capsule, and to go into this capsule, let's bring it up so that we can actually see it. And let's give it a scale on height of 2. That's kind of going to be about like your standard like player height, like a 6-foot kind of mentality. So you can build it kind of off that scale. So you'll notice this grassy knoll is really not that big at all. But with that, I can also always come back into this paint area. I can go to this terrain on the scree, give it like a 2 or a 3, you know, bring back some of that normal. So it's not at this dark 5, you know, like a 2.5 or something. Bring it a little down on that normal map. And again, when you're working with bigger textures, you know, you take into account the size, you can change the normals that you'd like. That's just going to help reduce some of that shading and shadowing on it. For trees, you can go ahead and paint these trees easily. You go into this section over here, it says edit trees. You can add a tree. I have not made a tree prefab. Alright, let me do that real quick. I'm going to go into this dot, so I'm just going to go ahead and make it this fir tree. Why not? And we've added this tree. So now I can paint trees. So by adding that tree in there, I can change the brush size yet again. I can also change the tree density, so I can reduce the amount of trees that paint. And it's just going to come in and it's going to paint all these trees for me in just simple sweeps. So I can just paint some fir trees. Just simple stuff like that. The trees I got were pretty low poly just because I wanted to be able to see the difference comparisons. So I've got those. I can also go in again, add another tree, make another tree. This time we'll make it this palm tree right here. We're going to add that boy in. And this time we're going to paint these palm trees. So we'll scatter these in around here and stuff like that. Important to note that if I use shift click, it'll delete any trees. But if I use control, it'll only delete the tree I'm hovering. So if you like how if your firs are, but you don't like where your palm trees are, you can hold that control and really just get these. But hold shift and you'll get everything. And same goes for this if I wanted to just get rid of these fir trees and not these doing the same. So it's good to see. There's also a really important thing right here called mass place trees. So I can set the number of trees that I'd like to have exist on this plane. So I'll set it to like 45 and I'll get rid of the other trees. So I'll place it and it's just going to sporadically place these 45 trees throughout this area. It also will naturally try and get rid of some of these visually as we start to kind of scale away just to help rendering and whatnot else. So it does that. So that distance rendering is what's really getting us with that. With the... Okay. With that, there's another very similar concept to this set right here, which is going to be the grass set. So if I go into here, I can edit details for this and add grass textures. It's just the next tab over. Adding a grass texture. Oh, it flipped over here. I'm going to go ahead and pick a texture. We'll go ahead and make it these, like, we'll go with these pink grass flowers. And you can edit these as you go. We'll just go ahead and add this set for now. Oh god. The opacity is far too high. Or the strength, I mean, my bad. So you can come in and you can really change how much get made in these sections. It likes to start off pretty high. If I do like, what if I do like 0.02? Can I even do 0.02? It will not. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and do that. So it's gonna come in and it's gonna paint these textured flowers. They're just that flat 2D image that's just gonna rotate as we rotate around. So it's good for just simple low poly art to run through to keep some optimization. If I also go in and edit the details of this grass texture, I can come in and I can change the heights and the widths. So I can make the minimum width like 5 and the max width 30 and other things like that, and just some wildness. So I make these super wide flowers and things like that, and you notice this pivot really aggressively with these. So you've got a lot of freedom of how wide you want these flowers, and you can also change them as you go. So I go in and edit these, it'll change them uniform. So I make this max width 1, or min width 1, max width 2, and now they're all uniform changed again. So it's easy to set some down, come in here, change the height. Maybe I wanted 0.4 on the height, or minimum height, and the maximum of 1. So now I've shortened all my flowers. And I can up the noise to like 3 or like, 20 and get some crazy different stuff that happens with each of these. So it's a good thing just to look. And you can also paint them as you go. So I'm going to apply those changes. And same thing, I can delete some. I can go throughout and delete these as I wish through the patches and to listen them up if you'd like. You can also always, add another texture. Just go into here. I'm gonna pick this one this time. I'm gonna leave it as is. And just get these like mixed, nice and mixed up in here. Holding that shift gets all of them. I get these in here as well. That control only deletes the ones I have selected. So same thing like the trees. So you can go in and make those grassy patch kind of areas. That's good for low poly. If you did have an actual mesh you wished to add, you can pull up the detail mesh option. Go in here, find the detail mesh you like. I'm just gonna make it this other tree. And you can just click it in and it'll do the same thing. But this is gonna be very chaotic as they're whole trees and not shrubberies. That's more for like bushes and small grass. Other than that, the only other thing I'd like to mention is there is sets of lighting down here. You can change that lighting except for global illumination, which I would not recommend changing too much. But the only other thing I will mention just for quick terrain sets is this sunset, where you can change the lighting angle and get some different effects on those meshes. That's the only downside of these textures, is that they do not have a shadow cast. So the ground will look very flat if you try to change the volumetric lighting like this. But other than that, this is essentially just how you make a pretty simple terrain tools, using the tools and just seeing what you can do with them. Really, I would say just go out, try them out, see what you can really get into with, and make some crazy good detailed terrain sets. Other than that, that's it.